The arrival of the abandoned. The message came on an ordinary Tuesday. At first, just a faint signal picked up by the Deep Space Array in Nevada. Dr. Elena Reyes had been monitoring the usual cosmic background noise when the pattern appeared, too regular, too deliberate to be anything but artificial. Within hours, every space agency on Earth was alerted. Within days, the truth became undeniable. We were not alone, and our visitors were desperate. Commander Jackson stood at the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching as the strange vessel approached. It wasn't sleek or polished like something from science fiction. Instead, it looked battered, worn, a patchwork of different materials barely holding together. The ship was enormous, nearly 2 kilometers long, and trailing what appeared to be radiation damage across its hull. "They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Paddle said, her voice tense. "Same message as before." Jackson nodded. "Put it through." The alien voice filled the command center, translated by the algorithms that had been working overtime since first contact. The voice sounded tired, even through the mechanical translation. "This is Sovereign Vessel Trilar of the Jaxari people. We seek sanctuary. We have been abandoned by the Galactic Concord. We have nowhere else to go. Please respond." The Jaxari had appeared 3 days ago at the edge of the solar system, their massive ship limping toward Earth at sublight speeds. The world governments had been in continuous emergency session ever since, trying to decide how to respond to the first alien refugees in human history. "Send our standard response," Jackson ordered. "Tell them that Earth is still deliberating, but we're preparing to receive representatives." What the Jaxari told those representatives would change humanity's understanding of the cosmos forever. The meeting took place in Geneva. Security was unprecedented. Military forces from every major nation surrounded the conference center. The Jaxari had agreed to send only 3 delegates, who arrived in a small shuttle craft that landed with remarkable precision on the designated pad. Dr. Rice was among the scientific team chosen to make first contact. She watched, heart pounding, as the shuttle's door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The beings that emerged were Bictal, but that's where the similarities to humans ended. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies were covered in what appeared to be overlapping plates, not quite scales, not quite exoskeleton. Their 4 eyes were positioned in a horizontal line across what must be their faces, and they moved with a fluid grace that belied their seemingly rigid exterior. The lead Jaxari placed a device on the ground between them. It projected a holographic field, and when the alien spoke, the field pulsed and translated. "We thank you for receiving us," the voice said, resonant but clearly artificial. "I am Coordinator Vexala. We come to you as the last hope for our species." Over the next hours, the story unfolded. The Jaxari were members of what they called the Galactic Concord, an alliance of spacefaring civilizations spanning 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way. For millennia, they had been part of this interstellar community, until the discovery of what they called the Void. "It is a cosmic phenomenon, unlike any previously documented," Vexala explained, as the holographic projector displayed images of what looked like a perfect sphere of absolute darkness expanding through space. "It consumes everything. Matter, energy, even the fundamental forces that bind reality together." The Void had appeared at the edge of Jaxari territory. When it became clear that it could not be stopped, the Galactic Concord had enacted emergency evacuation protocols. Hundreds of worlds began the process of relocating their populations. But then the calculations changed. Another Jaxari delegate said, voice heavy with what could only be grief. The Concord determined that not all species could be saved. Resources were finite. Decisions had to be made. The third delegate, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "Our world was deemed expendable. Our evacuation ships were commandeered for other species. We were abandoned to face the Void alone." The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Dr. Rice spoke the question on everyone's mind. "Why Earth? Why come to us? You are unknown to the Concord. Vexilla answered. Your world exists in what they consider unclaimed space, and our long-range scans detected a civilization advanced enough to potentially help, yet isolated enough to perhaps care for those abandoned by others. The world's governments debated for days. The Jaxari ship carried nearly 40,000 refugees, the remnants of a civilization that had once spanned dozens of worlds. Earth was already struggling with its own resource limitations, climate challenges, and regional conflicts. Taking in an alien species would strain these systems to breaking point. Yet, in the end, humanity made its choice. We cannot turn away those in need, the UN Secretary-General announced in a historic broadcast. If we abandon our compassion in the face of this crisis, we abandon what makes us human. The Jaxari will be granted sanctuary on Earth. The integration was not easy. Special habitation zones had to be constructed to accommodate the Jaxari's biological needs. Their biochemistry was different enough that they required their own food sources, which had to be synthesized using technology from their ship. Cultural misunderstandings were frequent and occasionally dangerous. But there were triumphs as well. The Jaxari freely shared their knowledge, accelerating human technological development by decades in just months. Medical breakthroughs emerged from studying their biology. Energy production became more efficient using principles from their propulsion systems. 6 months after their arrival, Dr. Rice stood with Vexilla on a hillside overlooking one of the main Jaxari settlements. Dome structures blended with Earth architecture in a strange harmony, and humans and aliens moved among them in what was becoming routine interaction. Your people have given us more than just refuge, Vexilla said. You have given us hope. Rice smiled, but it faded quickly. The void, you said it was expanding. Will it reach Earth? Vexilla's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Rice had learned indicated deep concern. Eventually, yes. The Concord's calculations give your solar system perhaps 30 Earth years before the edge of the void arrives. And there's nothing that can stop it. The Concord believed not, Vexilla said. But the Concord also believed my people were not worth saving. The alien turned all 4 eyes to Rice. Perhaps they were wrong about both. That night, in research facilities across the globe, human and Jaxari scientists began working together on a problem the most advanced galactic civilization had deemed unsolvable. Because if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was refusing to accept the impossible. And unbeknownst to Earth, the Galactic Concord had detected the Jaxari's survival. Ships were already being dispatched, not to offer help, but to ensure that the expendable did not somehow escape their designated fate. Standing together against the void. The first Concord ship appeared 18 months after the Jaxari arrived on Earth. Unlike the refugee vessel, this one gleamed, a perfect teardrop of what appeared to be liquid metal, hanging in orbit like a polished jewel. It made no attempt to hide itself or to communicate initially. It simply watched. Admiral Helena Chen, newly appointed commander of Earth's Unified Defense Force, studied the holographic projection of the alien ship with narrowed eyes. Around the war room table, military leaders from a dozen nations waited tensely alongside Jaxari military advisors. How long until they make contact? Chen asked. Krelvor, the Jaxari military liaison, made a gesture with his upper limbs that humans had come to recognize as uncertainty. The Concord follows protocols. They are assessing our defenses, determining their approach. Not much to assess, General Williams of the North American Alliance muttered. That ship could probably wipe out our entire defense fleet without breaking a sweat. Perhaps, Krelvor acknowledged. But they will not attack immediately. The Concord believes itself enlightened, civilized. They will demand the surrender of my people first. Chen's jaw tightened, and if we refuse, then they will demonstrate their power, Krelvor said softly, and demand again. The communication, when it came, was directed not to world governments but to the Jaxari settlement itself, a clear message about whom the Concord considered worth addressing. But Earth had prepared for this. All communications to and from the settlement were monitored, and the signal was intercepted and rerouted to a joint human-Jaxari response team. The alien that appeared on the view screen was vaguely humanoid, but with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Its features were delicate, almost crystalline, and it spoke with a melodic voice that the translation systems rendered with perfect clarity. "This is Arbiter Thalana of the Galactic Concord. I address the unlawful Jaxari refugees. You were designated for resource reclamation, not evacuation. Return to Concord custody immediately for proper processing." Dr. Reyes, now serving as the diplomatic liaison to the Jaxari, stepped forward before anyone could respond. "This is Dr. Elena Reyes of Earth. The Jaxari are under our protection and have been granted asylum. They will not be surrendered." There was a long pause before the Arbiter responded, its skin flashing through shades of blue and purple. "Unregistered species, your interference is not recognized. This matter concerns Concord law, which supersedes your local authority. The Jaxari were calculated as expendable. Their continued existence threatens the resource allocation for priority species. We reject your calculation," Admiral Chen said, stepping into frame. "And we reject your authority over Earth or anyone who seeks refuge here." The Arbiter's skin darkened to a deep indigo. "Your technological level indicates a pre-Concord civilization. You cannot comprehend the factors involved. The void approaches. Difficult decisions must be made." The Jaxari were given their chance to appeal their designation and failed to meet the criteria. Vexilla moved forward, all four eyes focused intently on the screen. "We did not fail, Arbiter. We were never given a true hearing. The Concord had already decided which worlds would be sacrificed." "As was necessary," the Arbiter replied, unmoved. "You have one planetary rotation to surrender all Jaxari individuals. After that, we will reclaim them by force." The transmission cut abruptly. In the silence that followed, Admiral Chen turned to the assembled leaders. "Well, that was diplomatic. Options. For the next 24 hours, Earth prepared. The Joint Human-Jaxari Defense Project, which had been focused on the distant threat of the Void, was quickly repurposed. What little could be done in such a short time was implemented. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. When the deadline passed, the Concord ship descended into the upper atmosphere, positioning itself directly above the largest Jaxari settlement. A beam of intense light shot downward, not a weapon, but a massive scanning field that enveloped the entire region. All communications worldwide were suddenly overridden, screens everywhere showing the Arbiter's face. "We have located all Jaxari individuals. They will now be reclaimed. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. This is your final warning." The response came not from military command, but from a laboratory in Geneva, where Dr. Reyes and a team of human and Jaxari scientists had been working around the clock. They activated their prototype, a device that had originally been designed to study the Void's properties. A field of shimmering energy encased the Jaxari settlements worldwide, and when the Concord ship attempted to lock onto the refugees with its transport technology, the signal scattered harmlessly against the shield. The Arbiter's expression shifted for the first time, showing what might have been surprise. "This technology exceeds your expected development level. Cease your interference immediately." Instead, Admiral Chen gave the order to activate Earth's orbital defenses, a network of satellites that had been hastily upgraded with Jaxari technology. They fired in perfect synchronization, not at the Concord ship itself, but creating a complex web of energy fields around it, effectively trapping it in place. "We will not cease," Chen responded. "The Jaxari are under our protection, but we are willing to negotiate as equals." What followed was 3 days of tense negotiations. The Concord, faced with unexpected resistance, finally agreed to a direct conference. 3 representatives from Earth, including Dr. Reyes and Admiral Chen, joined 3 Jaxari delegates aboard a neutral vessel in orbit. The Arbiter met them personally, along with 2 other Concord officials. Up close, their shifting skin was even more mesmerizing, creating patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. "Your defense technology is unexpected," the Arbiter began. "Our analysis indicates it incorporates principles related to void containment." "That's precisely what it is," Dr. Rice confirmed. "While your Concorde was busy deciding who deserves to live, we've been working on actually solving the problem." The second Concorde official leaned forward. "Impossible. The void cannot be contained or diverted. Our calculations are absolute." "Your calculations didn't account for human stubbornness," Admiral Chen said with a slight smile, "or for what can happen when species cooperate instead of ranking each other's worth." Over the next hours, the human Jaxeri team presented their findings. The technology was still theoretical, still being developed, but the principles were sound. Where the Concorde had approached the void as an inevitable disaster to be fled, the Joint Earth team had studied it as a phenomenon to be understood and potentially countered. "We don't have a complete solution yet," Dr. Rice acknowledged, "but we've proven that the void's expansion can be slowed, perhaps eventually halted. What we need now is time and resources, not to escape it, but to fight it." The Arbiter's skin cycled through colors rapidly as it consulted with its colleagues. Finally, it turned back to the Earth delegation. "The Concorde's models did not predict this outcome. Your species was unknown to us, your potential uncalculated. That's the problem with treating lives as numbers," Chen said firmly. "You missed the variables that matter most." In the end, a new agreement was reached. The Concorde would recognize Earth's sovereignty and the asylum granted to the Jaxeri. In exchange, the human Jaxeri research team would share their findings on void containment technology, working together with Concorde scientists to develop a solution that might save all worlds, not just those deemed priority. As the Earth delegation prepared to return home, the Arbiter approached Dr. Rice privately. Its skin had settled into a calm, pearlescent white. "You have altered the equation," it said simply. "In all our calculations, we never considered that an unknown variable might prove to be the solution." Rice looked at the alien steadily. "That's because you can't calculate compassion, Arbiter, or courage or hope. Some things don't fit into equations." 6 months later, a new treaty was signed, not just between Earth and the Concorde, but including representatives from dozens of species across the galaxy. The Earth Jaxari Void Research Center became the headquarters for the largest cooperative scientific endeavor in galactic history. Ships arrived daily, bringing scientists, resources, and new perspectives to the fight against the cosmic threat. On the anniversary of the Jaxari arrival on Earth, Dr. Rice stood with Vexella watching a sunset over the expanded settlement. Now a thriving community where humans and a growing number of alien species worked and lived together. The Concorde's latest models show the void's expansion has slowed by 17%. Vexella noted, "The containment field is working." Reyes nodded, "And the evacuation ships are being recalled. No more abandoned worlds." "Because one world refused to abandon others," Vexella said, all 4 eyes fixed on the horizon, where stars were beginning to appear. "When the history of this time is recorded, that will be remembered above all else, that when the galaxy gave up on us, humanity remained." Across the settlement, lights were coming on as night fell. Earth lights and alien luminescence blending together to push back the darkness. And in laboratories around the world, humans worked alongside beings from across the stars, united in the belief that no darkness, not even the void itself, could stand against them if they stood together. Because that was the truth the Concorde had missed in all its calculations. Some variables can change everything. And humanity, for all its flaws and limitations, had always been very good at being exactly that kind of variable.